What's up, heathens? How ya doing? Tonight, though, we have a Muslim who thinks that he's cracked the code on how atheism actually benefits Islam. Now, I wonder, does that sour Islam now because atheism helps Islam in some kind of way? Like, I don't know. I don't know what the exact procedure in Islam is for something, for atheism benefiting something. My guess is to convict it of blasphemy and cut its head off. But anyways, we're gonna find out how atheism is helping fucking Islam. So we're gonna figure that out tonight. Here's our subject for tonight. This guy is going to prove to us that atheism is helping Islam. So good, sir. I can't wait to see what you have for us.
I wanted to share a definition that Sabur shared with me earlier today of atheism, which another brother that we know told him, Brother Sirtaj, which was that atheism explains nothing but has an excuse for everything.
Right off the bat here, within the first 12 seconds, I have to vehemently disagree with the way that you're framing this, because atheism is not meant to be an explanation for anything. Atheism is a person's single position on a single question, and that's whether or not a God exists. So I guess I really don't understand why you're framing this as if atheism is meant to be religious in nature. And by that, I mean providing like a completely fleshed out worldview. That's not what atheism is. That's not how it's ever been defined. But you see, the problem is that these kinds of religious apologists, they need to put atheism on a religious playing field. That way it makes it seem like it's just one religious viewpoint versus another religious viewpoint, and they feel like they can attack it more if they put it on that kind of playing field. But in reality, atheism doesn't make any kind of claims or anything like that, other than the fact that the person is not convinced that a God exists. That's all that it says. We have to fill in what we think of, think about certain arguments and certain things, but atheism itself is literally not what you describe it as.
And I thought that was quite interesting and fitting in regards to what I wanted to discuss with you guys quickly here today, which was how atheism is helping people come to Islam. Now, I know this may sound really strange to some of you, but it's no stranger than how Christianity, I believe, led to atheism.
I wouldn't say that my Christian belief led me to atheism. It was me questioning Christianity that caused me to leave the faith. And then I had a wide open field for me to choose from as to what did I think about this reality, right? Did I think that God existed, or did I not? And if I did, then, which particular version of God do I think exists? Which one convinces me that he exists? And so what I did was I took a look at the vast playing field of all these different religions, and they all just kind of seemed the same to me. Like, I really was, just as much as I wasn't convinced by Christianity, I also wasn't convinced by Islam or Judaism, which those three are very, very similar because they all worship basically the same God. But all of the religions just seem to make ad hoc, baseless claims about how this reality functions. And then once you tack on to that, the fact that everything that we used to in the past explain with God's intervention, be it the water cycle or be it any other natural process, we have eventually walked away with a natural reason why that happens, and it was not, in fact, your naked rain dance that compelled the God to literally make it rain. Okay? Your milkshake did not bring all of God's rain to the yard. Okay? I don't understand how or why he's framing it as Christianity drives people to atheism, because it's literally not that. It's just questioning your religion, regardless of what it is, that eventually leads you to the realization that they're all just the same, making ad hoc claims that don't support the conclusions that they come to. Or at least that's how I felt about it. I'm not trying to make some kind of generalized type of statement. If you're religious out there and you're convinced by it, good for you. I'm just not convinced by it. I feel like they're ad hoc statements that you think, well, people in general, not specifically any one of you, but people think support the conclusion that God does exist. And I just disagree with that. That's all that is.
You know, the restriction Christianity placed on free thinking, the fundamental tenets and doctrine of Christianity, such as that of the Trinity, which was adverse to reason. There was no synthesis, there never could be any synthesis achieved between reason and revelation from a Christian perspective, historically speaking. Thomas Aquinas tried to bridge the gap, didn't work, and hence you had people like Martin Luther who came out and spoke aggressively against reason, which eventually led to the period of enlightenment, the modern world, which finally, or as a result, turned away from God and religion altogether, and therefore created a fertile environment for atheism to thrive in.
I mean, did this guy just slippery slope his fucking way down a gigantic fucking hill that showed how Christianity created atheism? Like, I feel like that's what his slip and slide kind of his rendition of history there kind of went up here and then just went fucking straight down and landed in a fucking pit of atheism and blamed Christianity the entire way down. Just, Jesus exists. No, he doesn't. Atheism is pretty much what it sounded like to me. Atheism's been around for the longest time. I mean, as long as there's been religious claims, there have been people that are not convinced by those religious claims. These are just the small minority, and I agree it has been a minority. It's a small minority of people that have not been convinced of any supernatural or religious claim. So I feel like he just made one of the slopiest arguments ever.
We find ourselves today now where atheism, I believe, is paving the way to Islam. And the reason I say this is because, well, look, on one end, atheists say to you, look, come to atheism. It's the rational way. It's the way forward. It's what you need to be following today. You know, any tradition or religion you hold on to is backwards and irrational.
There might be some atheists out there that'll tell you that. I'm not one of those people. I don't think that you're irrational for believing in your faith. I find these religious positions to be a little irrational, but that does not necessarily mean that you yourself are irrational. I feel like a lot of people come to their faith in a rationalizing manner. While I disagree with your conclusion, I don't inherently think that religious people are irrational. We can all be wrong about things. That doesn't mean that we're irrational, right? It can mean that you're irrational, but I don't think it necessarily indicates irrationality. I think that people can come to conclusions based on bad arguments, and they can be convinced by bad arguments, but still, I feel like irrationality is a little different of a thing. But also, I don't know of any atheists out there that actually paints atheism as like, hey, you need to leave your religion, and the only way to progress humanity forward is atheism. Like, there are people out there that I guess that do say that, but I mean, I don't know. That seems a bit cringy to me now. Like, that seems like a very 2012-ish kind of idea of atheism, of being very in your face and being antagonistic to every religious person that comes your way, immediately coming out the gate telling them that they're irrational and shit like that. I feel like it's better to have conversations with people, find out why they believe something, and then try, like, if you're not convinced by it, try to get the other person to understand why you're not convinced by it. You're not going to be the one to convince somebody else that they're wrong about their faith, right? I feel like the person themselves has to really reflect on what they believe, and they themselves change their minds. I've had this particular stance for a while now. I always try to be the one that's sort of, I guess a voice in the mist or something like that. Not to say that people are clouded by faith or anything, I guess, but I just always want to be like a voice that's out there that's trying to speak to people about how irrational some of the beliefs in a religion are, and hope that they can kind of ultimately see that. So I think that there's a bit of a nuance there that maybe a lot of people don't articulate all that well. Maybe I'm not articulating it all that well. I just think that beliefs can be rational, but that does not necessarily indicate that somebody is, on the whole, irrational. I hope that's not confusing whatsoever.
But at the same time, what they're saying in not too many words is, sure, we're calling you to what we believe is rational, but when you deny God, you will also have to acknowledge that there is no meaning or purpose to life. Your existence is pointless. You are just an accident, as is everything else in existence.
It depends on what you mean by an accident. Like, is it accidental that I stubbed my toe? Well, in the sense that I didn't purposefully stub my toe. There was no reason behind me to want to stub my toe or something like that. But also, that's kind of anthropomorphizing certain events that happen in reality as, needing some kind of ultimate or ulterior purpose. Just because I don't think that there's some kind of grand purpose to the universe or a grand purpose to anyone's life in general, that doesn't mean that it's meaningless. In fact, me leaving my faith, the Christianity, me leaving my faith actually caused me to value my life more, because this is the only life that I get. So you trying to paint atheism as this sort of purely nihilistic, an uncaring sort of valueless worldview is throwing a lot on atheism that's not actually there. While I found a lot of value in my life, another atheist out there may not have found the same amount of value. Their amount of value might not have changed. But what I know is, for me, I gained more value in my life knowing that this is the only life that I get. So it only increased how much I valued my life. So whenever I hear a religious apologist tell me that, atheism is just a meaningless pit of nihilism and all this other shit, and it means nothing that a baby dies over in the Congo or something like that, when in reality I value my life, other people's lives, trying to do good. We're working on something here at GE to really help do a lot of good in our community and in the world in general. I don't know if you noticed here lately, but we've been doing a lot of charity projects. Just recently, we decided to fund 3 different projects over in the Congo to help people produce coffee, garlic, and what's the third one? Garlic and ginger. Those are the 2. Garlic and ginger farm. Every super chat donation that comes here, every member that joins here on the channel is literally helping make the world a bit more of a better place. Well, a portion of the super chats, a portion of all memberships, those all go to those particular charity funds. Last year, we did a drive for foster kids, their presents for Christmas. We did a drive for that with a few of other creators, and you heathens really stepped up and helped us raise a lot of money for that. And we made Christmas really good for a bunch of foster kids that year. And the super chats here on the channel went directly to it, and the rest of the money for that YouTube takes in their cut, we had to cover with what we make off of the channel here. So when you donate, via super chats or through your memberships, you are doing a really good job in helping make the world a better place, because a portion of that is going to funds like those. Religious apologists, don't tell me that atheists don't value life and that atheism doesn't provide any kind of meaning for us, okay? Because it provides a lot of meaning, and you framing it as being this nihilistic hole of just self-pity, I guess, is really disingenuous.
Yep, there is no reason for your existence. Your life means nothing. You have no true value, you have no true purpose, you have no true worth. Sure, we'll give you tools to be able to cover all of this up and make it seem as if you have all of these things, but in actual fact, you don't.
what he's really talking about here is intrinsic value. Does anything in this reality intrinsically have value to it? And I would say that you would need something to assign value to it. And for this guy right here, back here, the thing that assigns value to things is God, right? God has assigned value to the human population, and God has assigned value to certain things in this reality. That's just somebody else telling you that God has assigned those intrinsic values to those things. We are the ones that assign values to things. I assign a value to my life. I assign meaning to my life. And that's no different from what any Christian or Muslim or any religious person in general does. Because they assign value to things, they just have to be told by something else, whether that be God, the preacher, imam, I think is what they have in Islam. You have to be told by somebody else that something has value. While me, and I'm not saying this in a derogatory way, but me, I assign value to things myself. I make those decisions myself. Just because I'm the one that's doing it does not mean that that has no meaning or that I'm lying to myself or it's just some kind of giant facade. I'm the one that assigns those meanings, or somebody tells me that this thing has meaning, and then I decide for myself whether or not to assign meaning to that. Because you have a good example of this would be preachers out there everywhere that assign value and meaning to the LGBTQ community. They affirm them. They reinforce that God loves them regardless of what it says in Leviticus and Deuteronomy and all that. Like they do those things. But then there are Christians that are like, nah, I don't want to hear that because they need to die kind of thing. You know, people are already using their own decision-making skills as to whether or not you assign a certain value to a certain thing. I don't know. I feel like this is getting abstracted to the point of meaninglessness, but let's continue. He thinks that we lie to ourselves, basically, about having meaning and purpose in this life. Just because you have to have some kind of God or book or whatever to assign your meaning for you doesn't mean that I don't have meaning or anything like that just because I don't have a fucking book. You want me to get I've got a book around here somewhere. I can write meaning and value in it, and I can just hold it up and be like, there's my meaning and value, dipshit.
Look, everybody poops. That has a lot of value.
Everybody poops. Catholics poop pure evil, though. And that what it is? It was a Family Guy episode where it's like, I need that everybody poops, but it's Catholic. And it's like, oh, that's consecrated evil coming out of you.
I don't know that.
That's essentially what atheism is and what it's saying and what it's promoting. They may not come out and say that, but nevertheless, that is the reality when you logically follow through with the implications of atheism and naturalism. Now, when someone, a human being, finds themselves in that position where they recognize these implications of atheism, they would realize straight away, this is absolute nonsense. This doesn't fit with my nature, with what I know to be true as a human being. If anything, this degrades me as a human being.
Yeah, I don't see how it can degrade you as a human being, other than he considers not having intrinsic value as being valueless. Maybe he's talking about how we're just another animal on this planet and the universe doesn't give a shit about us. Like literally, if I stub my toe, the universe doesn't give a shit. The desk is still going to be there. The legs are still going to be there to stub my toe. If I'm not smart about it, I'll fucking kick the goddamn legs again. The universe simply doesn't give a shit about whether or not you stub your toe, lose your keys, or anything else in this world. Whether a dog gets hit by a car, universe don't give a fuck. Dogs are getting hit by cars all the time. I know that's a hard thing to think about, but it happens. Just because there's no ultimate creator out there to ultimately care about whether or not you fucking find your keys to leave for work in the morning, that doesn't mean that it inherently has value that you find your keys. Just because he's, he thinks that there's a fucking guy out there that personally cares about that kind of shit. Don't tell me that somebody realizes the follies of atheism being that it's nihilism or something like that. If they get there, they're getting there for bad reasons because they don't actually understand what atheism is. And you're falling into a religious apologist trap when you become convinced that atheism means that you are valueless or you mean nothing or anything like that.
It strips me from those things that make me a human being. And eventually, these people end up leaving atheism. And I really believe if they are to come across the true message of Islam, which comprehensively accounts for the human condition, comprehensively provides an account for the purpose of our existence, why we're here, what life is all about, what's going on. It speaks about truth, it speaks about reason, rationality, it speaks about all of these good things, right? All of the things that we're concerned about as human beings. When they realize the true message of Islam and how that has great utility from the perspective of our existence, these people will come to Islam.
I mean, I know that we have at least one person that is Muslim in the crowd. So what I want to pull up and I want to bring here is just basically why I'm not convinced of Islam, like that there's truth or rationality or anything like that within Islam. There's a great website called the Skeptics Annotated Bible. They have a Quran section where they've also went through the Quran, and they've pulled out, they have these several lists, and one of those lists is the absurdity list. So jinns, apparently, which are kind of like genies or some kind of supernatural entity, jinns have led many humans astray. That's one. Allah appointed jinns to be adversaries of prophets. Allah created the jinn, but he is not in partnership with them or something. One of the things that really struck me odd in Islam as being a little out there and a little crazy is the fact that, Muhammad, he jumped on the back of a horse with a human's face and then rode it all the way to Mecca overnight when he was like hundreds of miles away. I remember that being one. Oh, here's one. Allah will fill hell with humans and jinn. Okay. I mean, if it was spelled with a G, I'd be all over that fucking place. Just give me G and some kind of mixer. It doesn't matter what that mixer is. I'll be there. I mean, honestly, after you drink enough gin, you're probably not caring what you're drinking at that point.
Make a choice in college.
There was a thing where the moon got split in two. That's correct. There's also a lot of anti-science stuff in the Quran. I've actually got a list of things that I could do in a really short video where I cover like 4 things that are anti-biology and stuff like that. Let's see. Homosexual acts are condemned as unnatural, but I'm fairly certain that males that the same gendered of a lot of species love to fuck each other in the ass on occasion. There's also single sexed organisms in this world also love to mimic sex with each other. So the non-binary also love to fuck each other in the animal world. Non-binaries are very natural. So anybody saying that they don't exist or some kind of bullshit like that, they're just fucking out of touch with reality. Let's see. The sun rises and sets at particular places on a flat Earth, and the westernmost point of the Earth, the sun is a muddying spring. My point is, though, and maybe I'll do some videos later about reasons why the Quran and Islam in general doesn't convince me. All in all, I really don't think that Islam as a religion exactly provides all the things that this guy says, like rationality and all these other things. Because as Sam in the chat there, who's a Muslim himself, said that all religions are inherently irrational. I think that's very true, that they are built on kind of irrational beliefs, but that doesn't make the person, exactly inherently irrational, just that they hold some irrational beliefs. Like, I'm sure that I know for a fact I've been irrational and irate in the past, right? I've been irrational about things. That doesn't mean that I'm an irrational person, kind of deal.
But I know at the very same time, there are those atheists that are out there that I'm trying to misrepresent Islam. So anyone that's watching that's genuinely interested in knowing about Islam, the true message of Islam, please watch the other videos on this channel. Stay posted. And if you have any questions, please put those questions in the comment section below, and I'd love to address your questions.
I'm not convinced of Islam, and I really don't think that Islam is being benefited by atheism. I think that people analyze their own particular religious beliefs, and then they change. They change what they think about the reality, right? They change it, and then at some point they become convinced of a different religion. I've actually got a really good interview here on the channel that spans about 3 different videos, and it follows. I think she's known as Murtad Millie now. It follows her. She was a Mormon living in Utah who converted to Islam, right, from Mormonism, and then came from Islam and became an atheist. And it's a really powerful story about what she went through as a Muslim woman over there. Anybody that's really interested in that, you should go and watch it. All right, so that's gonna be it for tonight. I hope that any Muslim that comes to this video, because there will be some that are very out there, I guess. I hope that you understand that I don't consider people to be irrational on the whole. Just that I think that some of the beliefs in the religion are quite irrational.